and then we'll hop over to Qualifiers side. But this is the semifinals, game number 1. Let's see what these Tamers bring to the table. And oh, we see another 𝗧𝗺𝗺. That's the second 𝗧𝗺𝗺 we see today.
I do like 𝗧𝗺𝗺 a lot more lately. I think you have to, as people have been talking about in chat, you have to be very careful about how you spec it. People are running chamomile or grease to ensure that you don't trap it onto a board where it just melts to water pressure at the moment. But it's so strong because it now has tools to use its speed. Things like Hook, Stone Trench, Flaming Meteorite, all of which are not 1 prio and therefore are not terrible. We do see immediately, though, the 𝗵𝗶𝗆 ban out from 𝗧𝗵𝗺𝗃, which, honestly, that makes a lot of sense here if you look at their team with the 𝗵𝗵𝗇, the 𝗧𝗺𝗺𝗺, the 𝗬𝗧𝗆, the 𝗃𝗽s. There's a lot of different things here that just do not like 𝗵𝗶𝗆, not to mention the grandpa.
Yeah, we'll see, but it looks like both electric Temtems, or just 2 electric Temtems, going to be banned out for each other's teams. So yeah, very similar Tems, very similar threats, but the grandpa, one of 𝗧𝗵𝗺's iconic Temtems, does he want to pick it up here today? Or maybe eyeing that news? So I'm just trying to look 1 for 1. I do see that beautiful 𝗵𝗵𝗃 though on Qualifiers side, so we'll see if that gets some action. I know the Toucan and 𝗧𝗺𝗺𝗺 would like to see it picked up, so we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the best one into this board. Yeah, it's got a lot of things that it can crystal spikes, but that comes at the cost of being really sure you can reposition in a bad field. We see a very... Okay, I like this opener. 𝗵𝗂𝗽𝗆 Scaravolt is safe, but can hit hard, right? Because then you got like your Wastewater and your Thunderstrike pairing there. That can be really devastating to the wrong board. And it still kind of covers that 𝗧𝗺𝗺𝗃 that kind of wants to come in to check this Scaravolt, but then it's like, if you do that, you're facing an uppercut off of a high attack invested 𝗵𝗂𝗃, as we saw last game.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what this also accomplishes is to scare away the 𝗃𝗽s, just in case he doesn't want to have it picked up. I mean, he's not playing a super aggro team, so doesn't really fear the 𝗃𝗽s all that much. But alright, speaking of 𝗧𝗺𝗺𝗃 being very underrepresented and maybe underestimated currently, does get picked up, so we'll see how much it packs a punch. I mean, we do know those turn 1 stone balls, that is 4x damage on that Scaravolt, so maybe enough pressure to scare it away towards the back line, and maybe has to swap into something like that Kinu if it stays alive, something like the 𝗃𝗽s if it doesn't get banned. Could be some good bets to swap in there.
The problem that I have with both of those options plus is those are 2 things that really don't like eating a Toxic Ink from the Yggdrasil that's next to this 𝗧𝗺𝗺𝗃. Like, if you're going to do that, then, oh man, do you let the Kinu eat that? Or do you go into like a Yowler that can eat both of those things? 𝗧𝗵𝗺𝗃 does seem to have Qualifiers kind of on the ropes for the Scara slot on the turn 1, now that you mention it.
Yeah, you're so right. Just that double coverage, if you just focus down on that single spot, there's not really much that Qualifiers can do. Maybe the mix, but wait a second. How dare I say that? Into a stone ball. That would not work out so well. Unless
it's teched to live a Tink into Puppet Master, like a Tink into Stone Ball and get Puppet Master. But wow, you gotta be like a strange vest behemoth to pull that off. So that draft rocketed past us both as we enter this turn 1 of our semifinals, and the half full goes off here. The baton pass goes off as well, and yeah, we're staring at a pretty spooky opener for Qualifiers.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, looking at the back line, as you said, just a double feels rather safe. A stone ball into a Toxic Ink. I mean, it would have to be like a chamomile Yowler, which it was a matcha Yowler, and these Tamers can't swap out, so we know it's not chamomile, so Toxic Ink still able to get value. And then that turn 2 doesn't even feel too good for the side of Qualifiers as well. Those narco hits comes online, but hey, let's see if they kept it straightforward.
So we see the Kinu swap instead into this, which, okay, of the things that are going to be eating a Tink, I think that's something that you just accept eats the Tink. because then it still lives a turn here. It can sack onto an appropriate thing. It might even live the Stone Ball as well. No, it does not. It goes down to the Toxic Ink as well. The Poison Take takes it down, so you at least get the singular value off the Kinu without losing one of your best pieces, and then you're out of that turn one aggression from 𝗧𝗵𝗺𝗃, right? Like, you just accept the fact that the thing that, like, you lose one thing to that, but you get value out of the Kinu just existing on the board for a bit. That's something, right? That's the base Kinu value that Qualifiers got, but that's still really rough as a trade.
Yeah, and I was wondering what's stopping 𝗧𝗵𝗺 from rinsing and repeating. So 𝗀𝗷 doesn't really die from both of those attacks, so this is a beautiful swap in for the side of Kuner. So now uppercut into maybe a clinch if he is running it. Might be enough to take down the 𝗂𝗚, but might just go off for a simple show off. But as we mentioned earlier, the 𝗬𝗵𝗶 not online or not on this 𝗬𝗵𝗶 there, so is gonna have to eat some toxic ticks if it goes that way. Could just keep it straightforward.
Narcoleptic hit is something we have to be aware of as well. The Stone Trench coming down there, giving the 𝗂𝗚 the evasion that it so really enjoys right now. They do go for the show-offs. This means that Kunder's is confident they can live the narcoleptic hit that I'm so sure is coming from this Nidrasil this turn. It does bring it down to 32%, so it does survive fairly comfortably. The energy drink keeping the Nidrasil alive. Awake, rather.
Yeah, same idea here. So another toxic ink should bring it down, but more importantly, does this 𝗂𝗚 just want to go down swinging, overexert 50% additional damage from that vigorous technique, or vigorous trait rather? So does have ninja jutsu online. I feel like Nidrasil can do the damage alone from 𝗀𝗷. But what 𝗂𝗚 could do is save himself from that comebacker damage, because Toxic Ink won't be enough to take down the 𝗀𝗷 alone. So just doubling up on it does guarantee that 𝗀𝗷 gets no comebacker value whatsoever, which is big, especially at +1 attack, 50% additional damage coming out from 𝗀𝗷. So that might be a decent play here.
I kind of like the Tolkien coming in on the 𝗂𝗚 slot for 𝗧𝗵𝗺, because this is the kind of turn where you want the heater up, because we know that like 𝗀𝗷's online now, it's shown off and it's got Vigorite, so it wants to come in swinging. But instead we see the 𝗂𝗚 stay in. I have to admit, I didn't expect this. The Flaming Meteorite, as you suspected, the Vigorous does come down for massive damage onto the 𝗀𝗷, which does take it down. Absolutely absurd plays out of 𝗧𝗵𝗺, nearly sacrificing their 𝗂𝗚 and hypnoing the fast Mashuk.
Wow, just incredible stuff from 𝗧𝗵𝗺, completely in control, making the right predictions here, because you had a fair point. The Tolkien looked kind of good, but just staying in, guaranteeing the 𝗀𝗷 go down, and then sleeping the Mashuk, just completely in the driver's seat for the time being. But now that the Stone Ball user no longer online, perfect opportunity to bring in that 𝗬𝗺, start inching away closer and closer to bring that Fire Tornado online to really punish this Nidrasil, because for the time being, it's basically just like it came in on the opening turn, because it swapped out. So Fire Tornado is still this turn and one more turn away from coming online. So
you're absolutely correct. One of the hardest things to use 𝗬𝗺 with is trying to get its fire moves online. I've been trying to make that work for 𝗬𝗺 for a bit myself, and I've started running Magma Cannon, because people just ruse you out of your Fire Tornado and you're stuck there like wringing your hands in frustration because it took you 2 turns to even use the dang thing. And we know that this one's running Shelter instead, so it's only got the 1 there.
Yeah, something I want to bring up as well, that Baton Pass doing quite a bit as well. It started at 50% from half full all the way up to 70%. Of course, coming down a little bit, but the Thunder Strike.
I would not have swapped. Okay, I didn't talk about this because I didn't expect this to happen, but 𝗧𝗵𝗺 just casually bringing in one of their most vulnerable Tems there. Yes, you want to keep the 𝗂𝗚 alive to deal with the 𝗬𝗺. Something has to go down. The 𝗚𝗽s is a hard one to do that with. Obviously, the 𝗚𝗽s just turns on the 𝗬𝗺 because a lot of 𝗬𝗺s run slow and can be bred these days to actually underspeed a 1-speed 𝗚𝗽s. It's one of the things people have been working on inside the breeder community for them. I believe it's either 47 or 48 speed respectively. But outside of that, like, oh my goodness, sacking the 𝗚𝗽s in there rather than trying to get a good turn to get a Psy Surge off just feels devastating there in comparison to some of the other things we see. We see the Grandpa come out instead as the other 𝗚𝗽s comes down, meaning that now we just have a fast 𝗬𝗺.
Yeah, that indeed, and man, that does feel bad, but I feel like 𝗧𝗵𝗺 felt like they didn't really have a better option. Either your Grandpa or your Toucan take a big amount of damage, but we'll see. I mean, Bully Trait, as we just saw, is online, so Thunder Strike, let's see how much it would have done on the Grandpa. Almost enough to take it down, about a little bit under that 80% mark. And 𝗬𝗺 might have overexerted. I didn't get to catch it.
I think it did. 𝗧𝗵𝗺 is not known for having good stamina, and it is incredibly hard to just keep clicking Thunder Strike. I didn't quite catch it myself, but I would assume that that's an overexertion this turn, given it had no stamina at the end of the turn, and its health is looking a little lower than I expected it to. See, the Grandpa surviving there kind of cements my point that, like, wow, dropping the guys into that felt real rough. But if you want to keep your Grandpa up, if you want to push your bully, which is something 𝗧𝗵𝗺's so comfortable doing, then I suppose this still makes sense. It's just that this feels like a very hard board to push with a 𝗬𝗎𝗻 or a 𝗚𝗏𝗽s and a 𝗧𝗵𝗺 staring you down.
Yeah, it could just be 𝗧𝗵𝗺 realizing that he doesn't necessarily need 𝗚𝗏𝗽s all that much. Yes, for Machoke, but he has 2 Wind Temtems that can also pressure out the Machoke. So maybe it was just sacrificing it. He knew the Thunder Strike was coming in that spot. So I guess he just valued that Toucan and the Grandpa a little bit higher than the 𝗚𝗏𝗽s. But I definitely agree, 𝗚𝗏𝗽 is such a great Temtem, but the 𝗚𝗏𝗽's Fury should be enough to clean up the Grandpa, and it is. 𝗬𝗏𝗀 a good swap in to eat up that attack. What does Machoke do? Or actually, I believe it just came on the board, of course.
Yeah, it just swapped in for the 𝗧𝗵𝗺, which makes a lot of sense going in here, but it does mean that it is going to be staring this Tulkan down. I like this as well because this means it's just harder for 𝗧𝗵𝗺 to find a safe opening to get this 𝗂𝗁, which is at a gnat's fart of HP. Like, under 3% is so rough trying to get this 𝗂𝗁 back in to be specifically there for the 𝗧𝗵𝗺. You basically just have to engineer that at the end, but 𝗧𝗵𝗺 just casually drops this in on the board.
I wonder if he's just trying to take advantage of the 𝗬𝗎𝗺, because I was just trying to think about it. Even if it comes down to like a 1v1 with 𝗂𝗁 𝗧𝗵𝗺, 𝗂𝗁 has to go for a 1 prio technique to do the bulk of the damage with a stone ball, so 𝗧𝗵𝗺 probably still outspeeds. I guess he could stone trench, but I was wondering maybe that wouldn't be enough to kill. But I think it is. I think this 𝗂𝗁 either a bait or just trying to get some decent damage with that 1 priority here.
And if you're going for the stone trench, that's still pretty reasonable because you get that evade, as you've mentioned. And then, like, stone trench into jutsu on an overexert might very well be enough to take down that 𝗧𝗵𝗺 from, I think it's going to be what, 40%? Sorry, 39% coming back in, right?
Yeah, it does come up to 40%, so we'll see. I mean, it's looking kind of close, but that 𝗧𝗵𝗺 in the back line, if 𝗂𝗁 goes down, probably wins it for the Sonic Cooners. Thunder Strike for the Toucan, Fire Tornado for the 𝗬𝗎𝗀 looking quite nice. That being said, 𝗬𝗎𝗀 could just Toxic Ink the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 all the way down. So it's still a little bit close, but let's check it out. Does 𝗂𝗁 want to stay in? It does stay in, but the size surge a little bit too slow, aka too fast for the 𝗂𝗁.
That is such a favorable trade for Kunders here. Now, I may be speaking too soon. This 𝗬𝗎𝗀 is still something that he has to break here. And there is a Tulkan that's very frightening for their own Machoke, which, as we've seen, is very frail. But I still think that this is overall a very favorable board for Kunders. You've got a very buffed 𝗧𝗵𝗺, which, as we've been talking about, is it hasn't gotten its shelter off. That's the one thing it's missing. But like, once you get that up to +3/+3, that's just going to be an impenetrable fortress throwing moves into this field. The only other problem with it is its stamina. Once again, we've got these like high stamina drain Tems trying to clean up games. It's like this thing wants to E-Storm or Thunder Strike this turn and then throw in a Fire Tornado afterwards. But does it have the stamina to do that? We see the Wastewater come down into the Tulkan, which does get it to have health, but since the Baton Pass is most assuredly the item there, it's very vulnerable to the Hypno off of the 𝗬𝗎𝗀. Really nice seeing all this sleep control that I really feel like people are kind of paying less attention to in their gear options these days.
Yeah, definitely. The only E-drinks we tend to see are from your own 𝗬𝗎𝗀s per se. So 𝗰𝗵𝗇's enough to take it down. And you know, that sleep might have been the saving grace for 𝗧𝗵𝗺's squad, because the Thunder Strike was surely heading into that Toucan's direction. So now 𝗬𝗎𝗀 can maybe fight it off. But both of these Temtems will go down to 𝗧𝗵𝗺's attack. 1 Thunder Strike on Toucan brings it down. 1 Fire Tornado, most likely from 53.3%, will bring it down as well. So this is kind of scary for 𝗧𝗵𝗺.
Oh yeah, this is by far a do or die situation here. We see it go down to 28% from the Fire Tornado. Pretty strong attack into there, and the Toxic Ink means that Oh man, one more attack will do the trick here, and I don't think that was the right thing to target. A tornado might actually bring the 𝗧𝗵𝗆 down because it's at 0.9%. Now that's definitely going to bring it down, and 𝗧𝗵𝗆 has enough stamina to overexert here. It takes it at the last possible hurdle, and this game one between 𝗏𝗏𝗏 and 𝗧𝗵𝗆 goes down to like 30% HP differential in the priority move. So close.
Yeah, extremely close. I believe 𝗧𝗵𝗆 almost overexerted the 𝗦𝘂𝗃, so
uses any move, that puts you at such a disadvantageous position for trying to get that back.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm trying to think about what was the most problematic. Oh, he answered our question. That 𝗦𝘂𝗃 seemed to do so much value for 𝗧𝗵𝗆. So I was just wondering, what was that one Temtem that really did well? It looks like Corner's already getting it taken care of, so 𝗦𝘂𝗃 won't be in game number 2. And let's see how it fares for Corners here.
So this does mean that we see the Grumper like available for 𝗧𝗵𝗆 instead. I'm not entirely sure how much I actually like Grumper here though, because there's a lot of things here that kind of answer it. Mix kind of trades evenly into Grumper, contrary to what one would necessarily expect. Sure, the Mud Shower hurts, but the Crystal Spikes hurts back. You can get it into Puppet Master range accidentally. It's kind of an awkward matchup between them in comparison to like seeing the Volcrane there instead, which was just like a monster field. To be noted, though, is the fact that this is a very different opener from 𝗧𝗵𝗆, with both the Amphitheater and the Grumper being a very strong combination, and a Sparks Grumper could be very scary.
Yeah, definitely we'll see. And oh, kind of bold, but the beautiful Luma mix does get picked up for Kuner's side. I'm a little bit worried though, something like a Thunder Strike doing neutral pressure on the mix, and then I don't know, another Thunder or at, you know, double damage Mud Showers might just be enough to bring down this mix all the way down. So Kuner's has to be a bit careful facing off against this double up here, unless he feels confident that yes, we're going just only to Puppet Master range, nothing more. But I feel like it's a bit risky. We'll have to see early on. Maybe just picks it up for things like, you know, mixed with, as we said before in game 1, isn't the best pickup with that Volcrane with the Toucan still in the back. But I guess he's just feeling confident, you know, enough to do the damage, as you said, on the Grumper. Can't trade neutrally, right?
We're seeing right there, my other concern with this opener, since we're on the subject of this, is a Crystal Spikes in a Wastewater kind of just destroys this Amphitheater, right? I know Amphitheater are very bulky, but a combination of those two attacks from two very aggressive Temps, we know that 𝗏𝗏𝗏s is running a very like aggro tireless Shook. That could actually be enough to take down that Amphitheater. Sure, it probably gets a Sparks or a Thunder Strike off, or a Plague potentially this turn, but like if this goes more in 𝗏𝗏𝗏's favor, this could very easily tilt back into a very different game.
Yeah, well said. I completely forgot. Of course, Crystal Spike is double damage on the Deer, and so is Wastewater. So if that Amphitheater wants to stay in, I do believe, of course, the 3-power Crystal Spike will always go before the Grumper as well as the Mashuk. So if 𝗧𝗵𝗆 wants to elect for that double, it could be a 1-for-1 trade. If not, maybe just Puppet Master range mix and then a dead Amphitheater, doing a lot of momentum for the side of Kuner. So yeah, we'll see. This game 2 looking quite interesting already.
Talked about Puppet Master there, and while I do agree that this game's going to be absolutely hype, 𝗧𝗵𝗆 has tacked for this. Those two waters there are going to be so integral for taking down this mix, because both of them have spread available. Obviously, 𝗏𝗽𝗍 has Fury, which is a very strong thing to see. Yes, Mix gets counterplay inside 𝗬𝗬𝗏, but it's awkward counterplay. Psysurge isn't always the move you want to be clicking on Mix, especially when that juicy C Spikes does so much damage to 𝗏𝗽𝗍 in the right context. And 𝗬𝗏𝗏 is just a mighty force. The Tsunami or the 𝗬𝗏𝗏s off of that, in the wrong circumstances, the exact opposite of what you want to see as a Mix on this board. And with only 𝗧𝗏𝗏 as a really full board defensive swap, like, you have to be really careful as 𝗏𝗏𝗏s right now, because this is not a defensive pivot Shook.
Yeah, we'll see indeed. This turn number 1 could go either direction, but I'm giving the slight edge, as you mentioned before, to Coiners here, unless 𝗧𝗵𝗆 wants to swap, but he doesn't really have a swap to eat that double up on his Deer here. So
this is why I think if 𝗧𝗵𝗆's staying in, which I think we both agree, like, he doesn't have any swaps for this, it's better for him to go aggro. Oh, 𝗏𝗏𝗏s blinks! Actually swaps for Shook. okay, so this means that, like, if he's expecting a Plague T-Strike into that spot or a Plague Mud Shower, that eats it like a champ. And it is the Sparks onto 𝗵𝗵𝗶. This is looking really intimidating because that's a ton of Inductor procs that you can get as 𝗵𝗶𝗶 as well. That's 2 Inductor procs per turn if Kunders is going to be targeting this 𝗵𝗵𝗶 down. Another Sparks into that, and that's 16% health that this 𝗵𝗵𝗶 is regained.
Yeah, excellent stuff for 𝗧𝗵𝗺, not flinching on the Amphitheater, buffing up this 𝗵𝗵𝗶, but it looks like Kunders targeting down the right spot here, or the left spot, whichever way you're looking at, but uppercut doing over 50%. So uppercut connects before that Inductor gets off on the 𝗵𝗵𝗶. Maybe if Amphitheater stays in, because Inductor works with every single electric technique used, so if it could recover over that 50%, maybe can live here. But it's not going to be dishing out the punishment, so 𝗵𝗵𝗶 might be hitting the back line.
It's an unfortunate thing to concede here. I agree with you that absolutely, like, I think 𝗧𝗵𝗺 was planning on using that effectively there, but I think they underestimated the amount of damage that 𝗧𝗵𝗆 would be doing that turn. I think a Sparks into a Tolkien, though, is pretty heckin' frightening, and that's precisely what we see.
Huge, frightening indeed, especially if you're considering that 𝗧𝗵𝗆 there. One tornado is gonna bring you all the way down. Heck, one wind burst with 50% increase might be enough to bring that tireless 𝗧𝗵𝗆 all the way down. It does have one Qianu buff though, so might have to keep it safe and go for tornado. But if you look at the back line, there's nothing that really eats the tornado all that well. Maybe 𝗧𝗵𝗺 would be the best bet to do it with. So yeah, that was a beautiful spark.
𝗧𝗵𝗺 comes in effectively, but the problem that you then have there is we haven't seen the item yet out of this Amphitheater. If this is another handcuff Amphitheater, which is something that people have shown that they're more than willing to put on their deer, can be really frightening for that, because it doesn't matter here because it's just swapped into the OCR instead. But if that was trapping in the hypothetical 𝗧𝗵𝗺 that comes in, then yeah, that would be a massive problem.
And man, 𝗧𝗵𝗺 doing so much off that opener, because, you know, Kunders had a solid opening to punish the Amphitheater, but one of these guys flinched, the other didn't, and the tempo has been going in that Tamers direction. So Thunderstrike or Tornado eating quite well. And oh, this is big. 𝗧𝗵𝗺 getting buffed up. That's exactly what Kunders needs here.
It is exactly what Kunders needs here. The OCR still, I think, can actually KO it from here, but now it's kind of risky. The thing is, it's only a +1 bonus on the special defense side, and that's less significant. You know what I mean? Like, at 44%, I don't think you stay in there, but then you, like, swap back to the 𝗧𝗵𝗆, but then you're stuck taking either a +1 wind burst or an OCR's aquatic whirlwind. Once again, 𝗧𝗵𝗆's got these chokehold double spikes into a single slot that just do too much to any potential swap in. Like, what else do you do to that? Do you, like, try to get the mix in there?
Yeah, to try to get into that Puppet Master range, force the wind burst onto Qianu perhaps. That might be the best way to go, because aquatic whirlwind, as you said, I do think even at +2 special defense, 44.8%, that's not all that much. And it is effective damage, so maybe the mix, try to squeeze into Puppet Master range from that AWW and force a wind burst onto Qianu might be the best way to nullify some of that damage. I mean, 𝗧𝗃 eats that AWW very well, but yeah, that wind burst, you don't want to eat it, especially considering that 50% increase on that wind burst attack. And it looks like Toucan doesn't have a hand fan on 𝗧𝗵𝗆's side, so I'm not too familiar what he has. I haven't been taking a look. Did you ever catch that, Quarter?
I didn't actually see that. I kind of just assume it's hand fan on Tolkien these days. But we also know for a fact that it's not a snare because it's gotten some damage into it, which is another thing I do occasionally see on Tolkien's. It could be some form of defensive item. Umbrella Tolkien seems really wild. I don't expect that. So I'm just trying to think of what other options Tolkien would really want to slot.
Yeah, maybe like a double screen, but it already took some damage, so we'll keep a lookout. But let's see what Kunders wants to elect to swap in. It might be this mix, but we'll see what he has in mind.
Sorry, I remembered what the item is for this Tolkien. I've seen it in some previous tournaments. Unless 𝗧𝗵𝗆 swapped up their team, it's an aloe vera Tolkien.
Oh, just doing additional damage. So that's another reason why 𝗵𝗂𝗃 definitely doesn't want to come in here. I believe it's an additional 15% on those toxic Temtems. So just really ready to smack those toxics whenever you're seeing them. And oh, 𝗧𝗵𝗺𝗁 stayed in. So this Tem might be going all the way down. And not yet though.
Okay, that's very impressive to see. The 𝗧𝗵𝗺𝗁 is now just absolutely hard buffed. That is now, I believe, +5 defense, +4 special defense, but it will still actually not go down. I'm so used to saying once you get into the single digits of HP that you're just dead to anything, but the 𝗧𝗵𝗺𝗁's proven me wrong here at 1.7%, hanging on like an absolute champion into all of this, and free to swap next turn. This is massive for 𝗏𝗏𝗏s.
Yeah, huge, and does take down the 𝗏𝗏𝗏, making that 𝗵𝗂𝗃 feel all that much more comfortable. Of course, 𝗧𝗏𝗃 still has that Nagas in the back line to really pressure out the 𝗵𝗂𝗃 either way. But yeah, the 𝗧𝗵𝗺𝗁 living, getting 1 kill there, but as you said, 𝗧𝗵𝗺𝗁 most likely has to hit the back line now, so we'll see how much 𝗏𝗏𝗏s is able to accomplish these next couple of turns. But it looks with 𝗧𝗵𝗺𝗁 being so close to death, things are still leaning a bit towards 𝗧𝗏𝗃, but I might be speaking too soon. The Sparks Grumper replacing that 𝗏𝗏𝗏 coming back out. And, you know, beautiful stuff for the side of 𝗏𝗏𝗏s, recognizing that maybe a Grumper was coming out to pressure out either the mix. So it does get that 𝗵𝗂𝗃 online, and we saw a single uppercut was enough for that extra 50% or over 50%. So this could be a good bait and switch, maybe just swap into Nagas perhaps.
I think that might be what we see here, because since the Nagas hasn't immediately hit the board, decisive is not here, meaning 𝗧𝗵𝗺𝗁 still just doesn't want to exist on this board. Like, you can't be a 𝗧𝗵𝗺𝗁 unless you're going absolutely first in decisive with this low a HP bar. But, I mean, it definitely wants to get out here, and I think that also if you're just trying to debate, again, a mixed Puppet Master range, that's something that you always have to keep in mind with this board. That's something that could easily swap into this. Outside of that, like, maybe we expect to see the 𝗬𝗨, because the other problem with this is that 𝗏𝗏𝗏s isn't really comfortable with the mix because there's the spread from both of those mentals, well, both of those waters that we've been talking about. 𝗬𝗏𝗺𝗺𝗁's Wrath is still just ready to drop onto this field. We don't know what this 𝗵𝗂𝗃's going to be hitting this turn. It could go into either of these slots, could be wastewatering, expecting the Grumper to swap.
And interesting enough, not going to be punishing that 𝗧𝗵𝗺𝗁 in case it stayed in, but instead is going to be the 𝗬𝗨 to come out to play. So let's see, does 𝗵𝗂𝗃 get a good kill? But Electric Storm outspeeding the 𝗵𝗂𝗃. This is interesting. That Grumper kind of speedy here.
It is indeed. We do notice that this is a fast Grumper. This is something we've seen occasionally out of Ronin players, so it's interesting seeing it come out from Exotic French as well. I know a couple people in chat have been repping it very excitedly. High-speed Grumper is something that has been kind of an affection inside the community for some of the shenanigans it can pull off. If we recall correctly, in one of your own tournaments, Fri May won with a Goring Grumper, I believe.
Yeah, I do recall that, and I have seen max speed. I don't know if this Grumper is like completely max speed, because I felt like the uppercut maybe would have done a bit more, but definitely some heavy speed investment nonetheless. And now it's out of uppercut range, that Electric Storm, because I think uppercut brought it to 48. So adding that extra 4% doesn't let the uppercut kill. Of course, 𝗬𝗨𝗨𝗃 is another beast, but
yeah. You took the words out of my mouth there. There's this bear that certainly wants a word with our Grumper, but the question is precisely... Okay, so it looks like 𝗧𝗏𝗃's calling the bluff once again, just decides to get a double Sparks Thunderstrike onto this 𝗵𝗂𝗃, which does a surprisingly low amount of damage given how quickly we saw that go down to other hits.
Oh, and trying to read a Grumper potential swap, not getting down that Amphitheater, but the 𝗬𝗨𝗨𝗃 48 all the way down. So out the Grumper goes. So that Sparks, maybe just for a good old 𝗵𝗂𝗃 damage, but being tireless 𝗵𝗂𝗃, he was already going to do the damage to himself. So I think 𝗏𝗏𝗏s takes those. And yeah, I think that Wastewater was just in case the Nagas wanted to come in to try to eat the 𝗬𝗨𝗨𝗃. So he was trying to cover both of his bases. That Oceara or the Nagas could have came in there. So good Wastewater. But of course, hindsight being 2020, could have killed the Amphitheater there.
I think it's reasonable trying to go for that. It keeps 𝗧𝗵𝗆 honest here. I think 𝗧𝗵𝗆 has no reason to not just let things come in safely on switches, but I think that you still make sure that they don't pull any funny business trying to gain tempo on you. I think that's always a fine thing to do, especially when you guarantee the KO on that slot anyways. It's always something that we prefer seeing in these kinds of matchups. We do see the mix finally hit the board, seeing a very advantageous state. Most of its big threats are either not here or KO'd, and the suplex annihilates 𝗵𝗵𝗆.
Yeah, 𝗧𝗷 taking full advantage of that 𝗬𝗧𝗺 environment. Will go first compared to the fastest Temtem in the game, of course. So now 𝗧𝗵𝗆, I believe, final 2 Temtems remaining for their squad. Corners with 4 Temtems remaining. And if that 𝗧𝗵𝗆 was a little tad bit healthier, it would be running away with the game. 𝗧𝗫 does have Wastewaters. He just has to deal with the 𝗧𝗏𝗊s first. So maybe this mix, this 𝗬𝗵𝗶 mix, Crystal Spike in that direction doesn't feel all that bad.
I think, okay, my only concern with that is I think that a Fury alongside a 𝗬𝗵𝗆s just takes care of this mix before it can really do very much of anything. I don't know if you spend all of that right now, because I think you want to be careful of the 𝗧𝗏𝗆, but my only problem is you're basically staring a lot of spread in the face.
And here we go. It looks like 𝗧𝗏𝗊's Fury does come out. And 𝗧𝗏𝗆's Wrath. Let's see how much he's going to do on the mix. Is it enough to take it all the way down?
Oh, and it is.
Man, that might be the spell. That might spell doom for the side of Corners. He needed at least some kind of damage on that 𝗧𝗏𝗆s, unless... No, 𝗧𝗏𝗆s didn't go for a side search, so that one prio side search still online. Has to maybe bait it out. So this 𝗧𝗏𝗆 not looking to stay in, as he desperately needs it to end this game. But you know, he could take care of 𝗧𝗏𝗆s even if he could go first. But that's... How is he going to take care of 𝗧𝗏𝗆 the following turn? So I think these 2 Temtems are very, very problematic for Corner's endgame.
I think that 𝗧𝗵𝗆 saving the side surge, as you suggested, has sealed their win here. If they didn't have the side surge available, an E-Storm could come down and then Kunders just runs away with this. But the side surge doesn't KO! Hello, this invulnerable 𝗧𝗏𝗆 defying expectations and remaining entirely well, I say entirely unscathed. 2.3% is all you need to get your fancy stuff off, but the Blizzard doesn't even target it!
Wow. Yeah, absolutely crazy. Blizzard should have maybe killed this 𝗧𝗏𝗆, but 𝗧𝗵𝗆 was completely confident that it would have killed. This is exactly the wiggle room Corners needed. 𝗧𝗏𝗆s falls down. 𝗧𝗫 with the Wastewater should be more than enough to close things out for the 𝗬𝗧𝗏𝗆. Impressive stuff. This was crazy endgame.
I am astonished by how much punishment this incredibly bulky 𝗧𝗏𝗆 can take. Granted, it is +5/+4, there's no denying that, but like, I'm not used to anything living this kind of damage on this low a set of percentages, as 𝗧𝗏𝗆 dies a warrior, takes the winner's way out, and just goes down to an OX.
Yeah, GG indeed. Excellent. Yeah, both of these guys going quite quick. So last game in our semifinals. Both of these guys, as you said, very hungry for success, looking to make their way onto the finals. And it looks like doing a little bit different ban. So 𝗧𝗏𝗆 banning the 𝗵𝗵𝗆. Actually, no. I think that's the same for 𝗧𝗏𝗆 ban.
Yep, and so far it's the same for Kunders as well. He's identified that the Yggdrasil is really monstrous into him, and he can't afford the attention that Tolkien wants to pay to other things to it. 𝗧𝗏𝗆, however, just throwing Grandpa onto the board. I know a lot of people have said that this Tem's kind of dead. People have been mourning wins right now, not so much to the proliferation of electric, more just due to the stamina changes and the turbo changes, meaning it's much harder to use a lot of the more stamina hungry wins. But here 𝗧𝗏𝗆 is still championing one of their like almost totem Tems at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see. I mean, he does have that turn 1 Thunderstrike from things like that 𝗧𝗏𝗆, so looking a bit scary for 𝗧𝗏𝗆's side. But he recognized the threat from 𝗧𝗏, but no, it looks like 𝗧𝗏𝗆 𝗧𝗏𝗆 will be getting the party started for the side of Corners. And it looks quite ferocious, but maybe that was a little bit of a bait. If he goes for
Yeah, that looks like a trap card. We all saw what 𝗧𝗵𝗺 was hovering over there, and I do kind of agree. The 𝗵𝗵𝗺 is an equally powerful option. I think either the Vulcan or the 𝗵𝗵𝗺. He goes for the 𝗵𝗵𝗺.
Yeah, maybe just trying to outspeed, but in the 𝗧𝗵𝗺, it might work the other way around. We saw 𝗧𝗵𝗺 a little bit speedier 𝗵𝗵𝗺, so I'm willing to bet that 𝗵𝗵𝗺 outspeeds the 𝗧𝗵𝗺. But in the 𝗧𝗵𝗺, does the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 get a final Thunder Strike before maybe going down to the mud showers, but maybe just the threat of the earth technique enough to scare it out? But maybe goes down swinging here. We'll see.
Well, we did see that 𝗧𝗵𝗺's grandpa will survive a single Thunder Strike from a in no other ways boosted 𝗧𝗵𝗺 from Kunders. We saw that it lives at around like 20-something% in one of the previous games. So this isn't unreasonable. If it gets the double in from the Naga, that's obviously pretty frightening. But then you're leaving the guys like in front of very grumpy boy, which seems like something of a bad decision given how hard we know those Thunder Strikes hit.
Oh yeah, very true. Well said, because yeah, if 𝗵𝗵𝗺 wants to get that 𝗧𝗵𝗺, that does lead the Nagai's for another turn, meaning the Nagai's Fury comes online, and if he goes for a turn with Madness buff, expecting that mud showers onto 𝗧𝗵𝗺, Nagai's Fury with the +2 special attack should be enough to bring that 𝗵𝗵𝗺 all the way down, so maybe missing the window a tad bit.
This is why I'm expecting actually aggression on the Nagai's turn 1. The 𝗧𝗵𝗺, as threatening as it is, the Kinu's been banned this time. It's not getting the same buff support that it did last game. The Volcrane's been banned incidentally from for Kunders towards 𝗧𝗵𝗺 as well, but it doesn't have the support that it had previously. So this means that it's going to be easier for 𝗧𝗵𝗺 to whittle that down over the course of a game. Obviously, Baton Pass is going to be a mighty force to reckon with that, but we're not getting this terrifying raid boss that defied expectation and like seemed bulletproof from the previous game.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the mind game starting off nice and early in turn 1. Does 𝗧𝗵𝗺 want to gun down that 𝗧𝗵𝗺 while he can? Or just Nagai's in the face looking a little bit too juicy to eat up this Thunder Strike? I want to say maybe that is the bigger play there. The Thunder Strike onto Nagai's. Because it feels like everything, as we were talking earlier, was like heading into 𝗧𝗵𝗺's direction, but taking out the Nagai's to 𝗧𝗵𝗺 nice and early could work out in his favor in the long run. Because 𝗧𝗵𝗺 can't take down 𝗵𝗵𝗺. Nagai's can take down 𝗵𝗵𝗺, so maybe take the enemy number 1 down first, and then hope
that was my thought here. Since we know Grandpa can eat that, it seems unlikely that Kunders is just going to like keep the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 in here. So this is another reason why it's like, you know, just swing at the Nagai's. You can even throw both slots in it since you know the Grandpa lives a single Thunder Strike. So it means you get a bunch of the swap-ins. Like, 𝗬𝗎𝗎 still takes a ton of damage from that. Mix might get into Puppet Master range from that. That's one risk. We don't like, that's a super weird thing to try to calc there, is like if a Wind Burst combined with a Thunder Strike from 𝗵𝗵𝗺 here would take Mix down into Puppet Master range. I don't believe that's possible, but that's what Kunders is gambling on, swapping out the Nagai's to eat this punishment that's been thrown onto it. We see the T-Strike go down onto the Grandpa, and it does live at around 21.3%. So here we go. We get the Wind Burst getting it down to 64%. This is actually looking pretty risky. If this falls into the 40% range, it's well into the 40% range, into 22%.
Wow, the bet has been made. It looks like 𝗧𝗵𝗺 thinking the Nagai stayed in, leaving the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 for another day. So now, no the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 environment, that +3 or the 3 prio Crystal Spike looking to perhaps go first. I mean, it's in Puppet Master range, so you can't really do too much about it. 𝗵𝗵𝗺 nor Grandpa have any AoE online. Or I don't
Electric Storm is online.
Oh, true. Electric Storm should be enough to close things out for the mix. So yeah, well said. That should be enough to maybe scare it away. But another Electric Storm does leave that 𝗧𝗵𝗺 able to Thunder Strike that left-hand side. So Grandpa falls. And if you look at the back line, if 𝗧𝗵𝗺 keeps coming in, it's just going to be devastating for 𝗧𝗵𝗺's back line.
You're not wrong. It's pretty much 𝗵𝗵𝗺 as the only thing. Okay, right. If Ociara gets a free swap in, that's something that can deal with 𝗧𝗵𝗺 as well. Like as I've said before, it doesn't get the buff support that it has had the previous game, so you could just sort of tear it apart with Aquatic Whirlwind if you get a clean shot on it. But you need that clean shot, and that also means you can't just bring your OCR in on it. Kunders is, however, bringing the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 back, letting it get that baton pass up for later on, realizing it doesn't need to press against this grandpa, and staying in against the E-Storm. That's really ballsy in my opinion. 22% is kind of risky for that E-Storm, which does come down. Is this enough to take down the Mix?
I believe it will. So the Mix does indeed fall down. So good 1-for-1 trade. I mean, Mix wasn't doing all that much, so got the kill on the grandpa, not too shabby. But now here's where things get interesting. Does the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 want to come back in? Grumper's finally running low on stamina, so has to overexert. I think you just bring out... Oh, this is tough. I mean, it depends on what 𝗧𝗵𝗺 plans to bring out as well. I mean, Naga...
I still like the guys in as a bait for a single turn, meaning that your Yowler can hit faster and potentially pressure the Grumper. But you could easily say that the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 is actually a better one there because you really want to punch into the Grumper, but the Grumper's probably leaving. It's the other reason why I like the Nagais, right? Because the token is probably what's coming in on 𝗧𝗵𝗺's side. Yes, it is what's coming in on 𝗧𝗵𝗺's side. Meaning, oh, no, it's your boy 𝗧𝗵𝗺. Of course, sorry, I skipped a beat there. Hey, what if that one thing that dies to the one thing that's out of stamina comes in?
Yeah, but I don't think I mean, it has 100% HP, so can elect to overexert. But maybe that is the bait Coiners is trying to make here. He's saying, man, this is so juicy. I know you want to pick it up here. I'm laying it right in front of you. Or are you going to overexert for it? Because I'm going to just go ahead and swap to this Nagais in the back line. So, I mean, this is where the mind games come in. Does 𝗧𝗵𝗺 want to take the bluff? Because, Coiners has some excellent damage onto that Toucan if he wants to re-Grumper swapping out. Or...
Very right there. I think that bait is some really strong stuff, and you have to respect it is the other thing there, because if you don't respect it, if you just swap your Grumper here, that's free Thunder Strikes on your wins, and you can't afford that as 𝗧𝗵𝗺. Like, you want this token to actually do things on this board. It's gonna get it's gonna get at least a win burst off on the Yowler, but you kind of want it doing more than that, being one of the stronger things on your team. You want to save that for your 𝗧𝗵𝗺 or something like that, and you can't afford free swaps unless you know you're powering into that 𝗧𝗵𝗺. So it seems reasonable to at least threaten that, but no, 𝗧𝗵𝗺 does bring out the Grumper and sends out their own Nagais.
Interesting, maybe anticipating. Oh, but the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 stayed in, so wait a second. Thunderstrike connecting on the Toucan doing... Oh my goodness, wait a second. Okay, the +1 special attack doing just enough to take the Toucan down. And it looks like he was reading the 𝗧𝗵𝗺𝗫𝗫, but it ends up being the Savage Suplex, just about 20% because of the heater trait. So man, beautiful stuff. So not only did Coiners save 𝗧𝗵𝗺𝗫𝗫 for this Grumper, but 𝗧𝗵𝗺 got some big kills right there and now able to hit the back line. So Coiners looking really, really good in this game number 3.
Yes, indeed. Kunders is looking like they're in a fantastic spot here. Once again, the Grumper's the only thing that can check this 𝗧𝗵𝗺. In the meantime, it's just running rampant over everything else on this team. Like, at this point, I think it's just been, it's already done its job, right? It's taken 2 things out just easy. 2 shots into the grandpa, 1 shot into the Tolkien. That's just really good.
Yeah, we'll see. So it looks like 𝗧𝗵𝗺 stayed in. 𝗧𝗵𝗺𝗫𝗫 does go first. Not enough to take the Grumper all the way down, but the Nagais Fury, I think the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 is going to be able to outspeed. Yes, it is. As we're seeing right now, the Thunderstrike will bring the Nagais all the way down. And even if 𝗧𝗵𝗺 falls right here, I think the damage has been done. You got rid of the grandpa, you got rid of the Toucan, and you got rid of the Nagais. That is a 3-for-1 Temtem if I ever seen one. So that's just a whole lot of value. And it's just a final 2 Temtem situation. 𝗧𝗵𝗺 still chilling in the background at 100 HP, 100 stamina. I think this 𝗧𝗵𝗺 wins the game for Coiners, going maybe to the finals here.
You're entirely right. At this point, the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 basically did everything that Kunders could have wanted it to do, taking out all of the things you actually wanted to kill, means that, yeah, sure, the one other thing that it could have killed, yeah, you can go ahead and sack it if you can guarantee one more KO with that, in the face of a Grumper that now is looking pretty grim, like 15% stamina, 34% HP, not where you want to be facing in a guys and a Yowler, right?
Exactly right, and making matters worse, in that the Sea Aura Yowler does thrive, so Grumper goes down, so it's just the final Oceara. Moshuk still looming in the background, Blizzard just to take care of that Yowler, maybe trying to underspeed it with that one prior, but Oceara way too fast for that.
Oh yeah, no, at this point this is such a clean sweep, because now we've just got this Moshuk in the back that like just devours the rest. Like it, yeah, no, 𝗧𝗵𝗺 recognizes when a game's over, and 𝗠ders in a stunning performance takes that second game off of 𝗧𝗵𝗺.